Hello, and welcome to Talk Talk with me, Emerald. So happy y'all are here this week. I know last week was a lot of fun with the live show. And so we'll be doing those once, like a month, something like that, once every 3 or 4 episodes. So just mark that on your calendar. It was a lot of fun, though, to interact with everybody, to get some questions in. So thanks for everybody who participated. So this week I have a couple things that I'm going to cover. I'm going to keep it short. I'm supposed to be going out tonight with a friend of mine. It's Pride Week here in Charlotte, so I'm supposed to be going out having some fun. And I'm already a little twisted in the wind. This looks like your average Burger King cup, but in actuality it holds some of the darkest of the liquors. So that's what I've been drinking for a couple hours now. But let's get right on into this, pouring a little bit of the tea, the lemonade, and other beverages. So a couple weeks ago we talked about how Drake kind of came for Eminem regarding like a rap battle where like, nah, Drake don't want nothing from M. Like that would just be a massacre, right? Well, I'm sure y'all heard the other day Drake brought Eminem out on stage, and when he was in Detroit. And that's cool, right? Like, I'm sure the people in Detroit were really excited about it, but it's also kind of like a cop-out. Like, Drake was like, I really don't want none, so let me try to bring him out here, let him know that we cool, don't come after me, we good, I don't want none of it. Drake being Drake, essentially. Whatever, shout out to Eminem for making an appearance in his hometown. I think that's pretty cool. Adele, so we all know Adele, poor girl right now, had to cancel a concert in Arizona because she's not feeling well. But apparently the Super Bowl, NFL asked Adele to perform at the Super Bowl halftime show, and she turned it down. And so there's like a back and forth story about how NFL said, no, that request never happened. And Adele's like, no, that request definitely happened. And I turned it down because, like, what am I going to do? Just stand there and sing? Because, she doesn't dance or do any of that stuff. But, that shouldn't really matter, because I think about people like Paul McCartney has been on the Super Bowl halftime show. Even, like, Prince, who was a performer, God rest his soul, I miss him so much, who was a performer through and through. But, a lot of his stuff was him standing there singing, playing his guitar in the rain with purple lights behind him. I miss Prince. But, like, you don't have to be up there doing 8-count choreography to be on Super Bowl halftime show. So I'm interested to see, like, a little bit more about that story, how that'll play out, because I would love to have Adele do the Super Bowl halftime show. I think it would be phenomenal, and we could just get down with her vocals. She could have some guests, whatever. So have y'all heard about Nate Parker? Nate Parker is the writer, director, and star of the upcoming movie Birth of a Nation, which is about Nat Turner and the biggest slave rebellion that happened in our country. He was in the movie Beyond the Lights, I think is the name of it. Black man is doing some really great things. Well, apparently, he was involved in a rape case when he was at Penn State in the late 90s. And so, like, all this is coming out as things tend to come out as the more popular and, famous people get. And so I just want to say a couple things about it, because I've had some people talk to me about it, ask me questions about it, wanting my opinions and thoughts on it. So first of all, two things can be true at the same time. If for some reason people don't believe this is the case, it can be true that the story of Nat Turner, the slave rebellion, the story of Birth of a Nation is important in American history, that it should be taught, that people should know this story, that this movie is important because it's telling a very crucial story, and particularly in the history of African Americans in this country, right? Like, that is very true. It can also be true that Nate Parker is a rapist. Like, both of those things can be true. It can't be, either he did this, he's a rapist, or like, and I'm not going to go see this movie, or I'm going to go see this movie and I don't believe that he did this. Like, both of the things can be real things that happen in the world, unfortunately. I said the same thing about Bill Cosby. The Cosby Show, it is true. It is hugely true that in the late 80s, in the 90s, the Cosby Show changed the way and the perspective of the African American family, what that family structure looked like in this country, what it could look like. And it was very important for us as a people and for everybody else, again, for what that perception was of what we looked like. It was also true that he was roofing and sexually assaulting women. Like, both of the things can be true. So let's not get it twisted. But it has to be either or when it comes to Nate Parker and Birth of a Nation. This movie and this story is crucially important. I think the biggest question that we have to ask ourselves really is, do we support a rapist? So, I don't know. I don't know the answer is to that. Some people are going to say, he went through trial, he was found not guilty, or he was acquitted, or whatever, whatever. And so, stop calling him a rapist. But listen, the victim, I can't even call her a survivor. You know why I can't call her a survivor? Because she actually took her own life. So the victim is not around. We don't know what happened. And I am not a victim blamer. So do we support a rapist? Because when you go see somebody's movie, ultimately you're supporting them. So I think that becomes the bigger ethical question in this story. But he can be telling a very important story and also be a rapist. Like, let's not get those two things confused. Okay, let's take a drink, and then we're going to move on. Whew, it hit you right there. Whew. So, our top story tonight is the Loch Mess monster, because Ryan Lochte is a mess, and he is a monster. So, at this point in time, all of y'all know that Ryan Lochte, Olympic gold medal winner swimmer, lied about being robbed at gunpoint while he was in Rio. Him and three of his teammates went out, got really, really drunk, went out, acted a damn fool. Ryan Lochte didn't want to tell his mom that he acted like an asshole and got drunk. Told his mom he was robbed at gunpoint. His mom told the press and the police and started an international incident, essentially is what happened. So I just want to talk about a couple things real quick. First of all, he lied. He's a liar, and people are laughing it off as if like, oh, it's nothing. The Olympic Committee put out a statement saying these are kids. Ryan Lochte is older than me, okay? I'm 31. This fool is 32 years old. He's not a kid being a kid. This is a grown-ass man that lied about an incident, okay? That lied to the police. They gave a false police statement. This is not just a kid having fun. Second of all, he embodied privilege in so many ways. So he gave this bullshit ass apology talking about, it's traumatizing to be in another country, to not speak the language. So, couple things. One, you have the privilege of your nationality. You're American. People, for whatever reason, whether they fully respect it, to some degree they fear it, right? So he had that privilege. Two, you have the privilege of your language, speaking English. You're in a country that speaks Portuguese, and you're talking about, I was afraid because I didn't understand the language. Nigga, you in Brazil! What did you think they were going to be speaking? Like, it's not on them to learn English just because you there for a couple of weeks, okay? How do you think the cashier felt at the gas station when white men come in there speaking a different language, kicking down doors and peeing all over the goddamn building? You talking about you traumatized. So, again, your language is a privilege. Three, you have the privilege of being white, because Lord knows if LeBron and Draymond and Carmelo had pulled this bullshit, it would have been a whole different story. There would have been thugs and every other code word for nigger that there is out there, okay? And then lastly, you had the privilege of being male, and this is one that really pisses me off. Because I think about Gabby Douglas. We've all heard the criticisms about her being unpatriotic, un-American, because in a moment of reflection, she forgot to put her hand over her heart during the national anthem. First of all, nobody puts their hand over their heart during the national anthem, okay? Let's get that clear. You put your hand over your heart during the Pledge of Allegiance, not during the national anthem, okay? You take your hat off during the national anthem. You don't put your hand over your heart during the national anthem. So let's clear that up. She's also been criticized because of her hair. She's been criticized because she is not smiling enough. She's been criticized because she decided to breathe the air in Rio. Like, she's been criticized for everything, for embarrassing our country. And you telling me that this smug ass 32-year-old white man can go to a different country, can kick down a door, can get into an altercation with security, can pee on a building, and it's just kids being kids and having fun? Get the fuck out of here. Like, really? Really? Can we talk about the layers upon layers upon layers of privilege that is? Ryan Lochte, you need to be ashamed of yourself. You didn't want to lie to your mama, or excuse me, you didn't want to, tell your mama the truth about you being drunk, so you decided to lie to her and start an international incident. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You need to man up. You need to take some responsibility and some onus for what you did, instead of trying to say that you were traumatized by the whole situation. You traumatized other people, and you tried to make a brown country, an entire country and city, look bad because of your fucking privilege. Get over yourself. Lastly, I'm going to get into my social justice or bus piece, okay? So, y'all know that in Milwaukee, another black man was killed by police. Seville Smith, he was shot fleeing the police after a chase, and some things occurred, and apparently he had a pistol on him. And so, riots have happened in Milwaukee, and the community has responded. The first thing I want to say is, I get so sick and tired of people saying, like, you shouldn't riot, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. We cannot dictate how people's emotions are going to manifest themselves, okay? These are real, raw emotions of frustration, of anger, and of sadness, and we cannot dictate what that looks like in people. I can't tell you how to be upset. I can't tell you how to be sad. So, in letters from a Birmingham city jail, Dr. King, he wrote something, and he said, the white moderate will call for peace over equality. And that's what I'm seeing right now. Every time something happens, it seems like white people and some black people, y'all ain't off the hook either, are like, oh, just be peaceful, and taking away from what's actually happening. Instead of calling for me to be peaceful, why don't you call for the equality and the equity of what I need that's making me violent? Okay? Stop being a moderate in these situations and start being a radical when it comes to righting the wrongs that marginalized people are seeing. So do not try to dictate how people respond to their anger and their sadness and their frustration and their oppression. Stop doing that. These riots stem from years and decades and centuries of frustration and inequity and inequality in that city, in this country, and definitely in Milwaukee. Milwaukee has it bad, and we've all started reading the stories and kind of know the history around that. And let me just make a couple things really clear. One of the disconnects I think is happening across our country and in cities like Milwaukee is that people think that what certain communities need is equality. What certain communities need is equity. And the difference between equality and equity, for those of you who don't know, equality is giving everyone the same resources. So there could be a school in a predominantly white neighborhood that has everything that they need, that has been performing at high levels. Parents are involved in a certain way. They have resources out the wazoo. And there could be a school in a majority minority community that doesn't have those same things, okay? If the government decides that they're going to give those two schools the exact same resources, which is equality, then they're both going to start to, perform better, but they've already started off on different tracks. So the equality still isn't helping that school that's in that marginalized community. What we need is equity. Equity is giving people the resources that they need, not equally to what their neighbor has. So in that situation, the government gives the school that's in the minority community different resources. It gives them access to different types of food, to, you know, more organic and healthy food. It gives them more access to technology. And in that way, they can start to catch up to their counterparts. That's the difference in equality and equity. In cities like Milwaukee and a lot of other cities across this country, what we're seeing is people who are not a part of marginalized communities, white people, are saying, you have the equality. That's not what we need. We need the equity in certain things. Okay? Because we've already started off 20 steps behind you. So we can have equality, and we're going to move, and we're still going to be 20 steps behind you. We need the equity so that we can be pushed forward, so that we can be on the same and level playing field as you. So think about that. When we start to think about why people are pissed off, we start to think about what's going on in this country, stop saying you're equal, you have the same rights, the same things, the same access to things. We need different stuff sometimes. And start realizing what we need as a people and as communities and as marginalized people and as oppressed people, and people have been locked up and families torn apart and, you know, culture stolen from them. We don't need equality necessarily. I really want y'all to think about that and start having those conversations. It is equity. It is equity that we need. We need the opportunity to level our playing fields in education, in medicine, in nutrition, in healthcare, in finances, and putting together our family units, and affordable housing, and everything. We need equity. I'm going to drink because y'all about to have me in here preaching. Let me just take a drink. I told y'all I was supposed to be going out tonight, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick because my homegirl going to come over here and we're going to keep drinking and we're going to go out. So I'm going to leave you with my final thought. Yesterday, another person was shot by the sheriff here in Charlotte off of 45, for those of you who know the city. It's out of control, right? It's not even getting out of control. It's been out of control. And I was thinking about something, and I thought back to Jesse Williams' speech at the BET Awards a couple of months ago. And there's one part that he said that I'm going to repeat to you all. He said, you know, what we've been doing is we've been looking at the data, and we know that police somehow manage to de-escalate, disarm, and not kill white people every day. So what's going to happen is we're going to have equal rights and justice in our own country, or we will reconstruct their function and ours. That last part is what I really want to focus on. We will reconstruct their function and ours. And it's just a lot of things are going through my head when I was thinking about this. So I was thinking about Corinne Gaines, who said that she was sovereign from law enforcement. She was reconstructing her function in this system and the function of law enforcement in her life, right? Like, she didn't want anything to do with them because she didn't trust them because they weren't treating her in a just fashion, she didn't feel. I think about the Panthers back in the 60s and 70s, the same thing, reconstructing what our function was in our own communities. Started patrolling neighborhoods, started taking care, doing breakfast programs in our neighborhoods. And that's just something, I'm not going to say that I'm fully there yet, but man, the more and more I am seeing the brutality with impunity of police officers, the more and more I'm starting to realize that we're going to have to reconstruct their function. And I'm damn sure going to have to reconstruct my function and what this looks like, because they're not going to protect me. They're not going to protect my girls. They're not going to protect many of you that I love and hold dear. And so I need to figure out what that looks like for me in this system and how they play a role in the new system that we've reconstructed. That's my final thought. I don't have the answer to that yet. That's just kind of what I'm thinking on right now. Let's drink to it. Y'all are wonderful. Thanks for always tuning in. Next week, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but we'll figure it out because shit is always happening. So, thanks for tuning in and keep sipping. Cheers.